a little bit last week, right from the beginning, to find an OC is somebody that believed in aggressive, fundamental football, that wanted to be wide open, had good balance. The downfield explosive passing game, we were going to vary up tempos and use our personnel really to the best of our ability, multiple personnel groups, play with pace, vary the tempo. Sonny and I have known each other kind of in passing through recruiting and the many years in Dallas and really North Texas that I'd been recruiting and running into Sonny. And, our offensive ideas meshed pretty quickly. He'll create the best version of Texas Tech's offense. So this will be, his version. He'll use his years as a player here under Coach Leach and then under, Coach Tuberville and Coach Kingsbury. He's been an assistant, and then obviously the last 7 years as an OC, and he'll draw on those experiences, use the staff around him to create really the best version of Texas Tech, our offense. Sonny's a really good recruiter. As I talk to high school coaches, very, very highly respected and known, not only just in the state of Texas and West Texas, but in the Metroplex and a lot of places. Obviously, he's recruited quarterbacks on a national level, but from THSCA guys to, Texas high school assistant coaches and head coaches, many of them have reached out, really over the last, I guess, maybe 24 hours just in support of Sonny. And I think that his reputation obviously precedes him as a really, really good recruiter. He's back home, Snyder, Texas. Both he and Tamara are from Snyder and both Texas Tech grads. So I know that's special. I know from coaching at my alma mater how special that is when you have former teammates and people like that you've known for a while, that you get to come back home. And so he's coming back home to kind of rebuild our offensive identity and our brand. And so we welcome Sonny and Tamara, Gray and Hayes back to Lubbock, back to Texas Tech.
I appreciate it, Matt. Appreciate it, Coach Wells, and just appreciate Kirby Holcutt and everyone that made this thing happen. And being able to be back here. 20 years ago, I was here as a player, walked on, small school from Snyder, Texas, and was able to learn a lot of football, and we had a lot of success, and lived here for 13 years. And so this place, between playing here, going to school here, and now coaching here, means a great deal to myself and to my wife and my family, and just extremely excited to be back. And I think that I believe in Texas Tech. I believe in the players that are here. I believe in Coach Wells. I believe in the plan that we can have in place to win football games. And so just excited to be here. I think that this place is very special. Obviously, as I said, there's a lot of really good players that have been here. There's a lot of really good players that are here now, and I'm excited to get to work with them. And that was really the thing that I told the whole team is I'm looking forward to developing the relationships with them, going to work with them, and sharing with them what I've learned from my time here and what I've learned from my time at TCU, and very appreciative of Coach Patterson in the 7 years that I was there, and the people in Fort Worth that embraced our family. But there's no doubt we're very excited to be here. We wanted to be here, and I'm looking forward to winning a lot of football games. And it's going to take a lot of hard work, and we're willing to do that. And then really just looking forward to rolling our sleeves up, and with the coaches that are here and the players that are here and doing that. So it's a great day for us. I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to when the players get back on the campus. And so from that, I think we want to have an offense that is explosive. We want to have an offense that's very physical, and we want to have an offense that does things together. And so those are the things that we'll talk about with our players, and being very definitive and very black and white about what those things are will come as we get time with our players and moving forward into January and then into February and spring ball. But really appreciative of Coach Wells, the belief and the trust that he has in me to come here, and looking forward to getting this thing going.
All right, we'll open it up for questions. As a reminder, if you were not previously here when Coach Cumbie was, if you would please just introduce yourself and your network affiliation. We'd appreciate it. We'll start with questions for Coach Cumbie, and we'll start with Don Williams.
Hey, Sonny, with all the years that you spent at Tech and all the years that you spent at TCU, what were kind of the main considerations for you in making this decision?
Well, Don, they give you seniority, I think. You get the first question, so that's good to see that they're respecting you, man. All the time that was spent here, and the things that came into consideration. It was an opportunity really to come back to a place that I grew up playing in, and that means a lot to myself and my family. It was a great opportunity in terms of there's a lot of pieces in place here. These decisions are never easy. Leaving here was not very easy, and when it's not easy because there's people involved and there's relationships that are involved, and so I think that's the biggest thing. And coming back here is we were comfortable, with Texas Tech. We were comfortable with Coach Wells. We were comfortable with the people here in terms of those relationships being made. And anytime you move in coaching, there's a huge a lot of people involved, and so I think that was one of the major factors, and the belief that I had that Coach Wells has this program in the right direction. And I think that we have a lot of good players here.
Go to Eric Kelly.
Coach Eric Kelly, KMAC, what excites you about what you think you can be able to do with this Texas Tech offense?
Well, I think there's a lot of talent in the skill positions. They've done a really good job of recruiting, and offensive line. They're big up front. They're a physical group. The running backs, they've shown throughout the last year that they're dynamic playmakers. And it'll be my job to make sure the quarterbacks play at a high level. And I think that we have the pieces to be able to do that. And so in terms of explosion on the skill positions, and I think, you talk about all those things at the end of the season and watching them, because, we play common opponents. I've watched a lot of Texas Tech offense, and they play very, very hard. They play very, very hard. Whether they're winning, they play very, very hard if things aren't going their way. And so I think just the competitive character of this group, just from watching from afar, is exciting to be a part of.
Go to Joe Yeager.
Yeah, Coach, the offense that we see next year from Texas Tech, how closely is it going to resemble what you ran at TCU this past year? Is it going to be identical, or are there going to be some differences?
Yeah, I think there'll be a great amount of differences. I think the first thing that I'm going to do is, and I have an idea just from watching and studying the depth chart and watching film and talking to these other coaches on the offensive staff is okay, who's really good at this? Who's really good at running vertical routes? Who's really good at in breaking routes? The running backs, are they more downhill or the outside zone? And so identifying that with the talent in the room, with the tight ends, all right, who's the guy that you can flex out, who's the guy that can create space in the run game. And so I think it's identifying what these players are really good at, particularly what does the quarterback do really well, and then try to do that. So I think that, the things that Texas Tech has done in the past in terms of being in 10 personnel, we'll do that. Be in 11 personnel yes, we'll do that. And if we have, the ability to get mismatches in terms of creating, different formations, then we'll do that as well.
Go to David Collier.
Yeah, Sonny, along those lines, I mean, you've coached under Mike, Cliff, and Gary. How much has your philosophy changed? It doesn't sound like it's changed that much, but do you draw from some of the stuff that you guys did, especially this past season where you led the Big 12 in rushing?
Yeah, I think everywhere you go, you learn good, and you try to pick up things that you want to apply one day, and within the confines of your own thoughts, and with the confines of your own character and how you want to coach. But I learned a great deal from Mike Leach. I've learned a great deal from Neil Brown, from Cliff, from Coach Patterson, from Coach Keel and Coach Meacham. Those guys are outside the box thinkers. They've done it for a long time and have been really very successful. And so the number one thing is you want to win football games. And that's the number one goal is what do we do that gives our players the best chance to be successful, and how can we win? And I think that's one of the things is that, we want to be explosive and we want to throw it down the field, and we have the ability and the players to do that. And it's also identifying what gives us the best chance to win. And so I think that those are some of the things that you picked up along the way, with your time with some really great, bright minds.
Go to Pete Christie.
Hey, Sonny, welcome home. You look good in red and black again.
Thanks, Pete. I was wondering if you're going to give me that call, Coach, man.
Oh, I'll be calling you soon for that. No doubt
you
about
don't have
it.
to do that anymore. Yeah.
Hey, what does it mean to you, having played here and coached here? What does it mean to you to be a Texas Tech Red Raider?
Well, it means a great deal. I think that there's something about the fabric of West Texas and the people and the work ethic, and it means people are very passionate about Texas Tech. Everywhere you go, somebody's wearing a double T, and they love this place, and that didn't leave me. I was working at a great place, and but I still followed Texas Tech from afar, and obviously competing against them every year was difficult. Which it'll be the same, when we go play against TCU. But I've always loved Texas Tech, and to be able to come back here and in a leadership role with Coach Wells and to help these guys to win football games, it's really exciting. And the place has changed a lot, and I think it'll continue to change for the better. And I think that it's the future is. I'm excited about the future here in Lubbock.
Go to Ben Golan.
Hey, Coach. Ben Golan with RedRaidersports.com. So you lost Barron to Coach Wells, and so you had to come coach him, right? Is that how it worked? No, but Phil,
yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's
your
about right.
your evaluation of the quarterback room, and then would you be opposed to maybe adding to that as we move forward here this offseason?
I think the most important thing is, like you said, is to evaluate the guys that we have here now and the guys that we've signed. So, you go through with Alan Bowman, with Henry, with Maverick, with Donovan, the guys that are in that room, and then Barron coming in. And I'm still trying to learn everybody. So, hopefully I didn't leave anybody out in the midst of that. But I think you evaluate those guys. And you've got a good sample of Alan and Henry in terms of playing in Big 12 games and winning in Big 12 games, and also, not playing as well in some of the Big 12 games. And then you just got to kind of figure out, all right, why and what were they successful at. So I think evaluating the room, the guys that are in there. I know Barron very well. I've known him for a very long time, and I knew he wasn't budging because he grew up here in Lubbock wearing a Graham Harrell jersey, and so I knew that he was pretty solid here. And I'm excited to be able to coach him, as I am with the other guys that are in the room.
Go to Shahan.
Hey, Coach. Shayhan J. Roger from over at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. I'm curious. You had been at TCU since 2014. What kind of made this the right time to go, and what kind of made this the place?
Well, I think the place was, it was a place that we were very comfortable with and had been before and know, and then also that there's pieces in place to win and to be successful here on offense. And this place at Texas Tech has been successful on offense, and that's, it's our job to get it back to that spot, to get that back to that spot, and so that's what made it very appealing for myself to be able to jump at this opportunity and when it opened up.
Go to Sam Khan.
Sonny, Sam Khan, ESPN. I'm curious, with your roots there, how important is that to this place? I know when you're a Tech guy, it means something. What does it mean in terms of how you can relate to people, how you can sell the place to recruits, and why is it important when you come back?
Well, I think any time that you've sat in a player's seat, particularly at your own alma mater, I know, and it's not a prerequisite to be a coach. Is you got to be a player, but I think anytime you've been a player, you gain a little bit of credibility. There's plenty of coaches that are phenomenal coaches that haven't, but you gain a little bit of credibility. And then when it comes from, hey, I sat in these exact same seats at this exact same place, 20 years ago for 4 years, and the things that you go through as a student athlete at every place is different. But I think to be able to relate to the kids here, to be able to recruit to Lubbock and to Texas Tech, I think that it's a place where guys are they're willing to come and roll up your sleeves and go to work and to work very hard, and I think a sense of togetherness and a sense of pride. I think you see that everywhere around Lubbock is the pride in Texas Tech and the red and the black and the double T. And so that opportunity was great, and to be able to do that and to try to bring kids here again was something that really drew me back here.
Go to Ryan King.
Hey, Coach, Ryan King with KLBK, the CBS affiliate here in Lubbock. Just curious, you were mentioning how this team has all that potential to get back to, where they were. Where do you see the most potential when it comes to the roster, what's already here to get back to that, air raid and be the offense that they want to be?
Yeah, there's a lot of experience. I think that's always important. Is you've got guys that have played a lot of football, and some guys that were young that have played a lot of football. And the receiver position, you've got some guys that can really run. You've got Easy, you've got Jalen Polk, Miles Price is a true freshman, made a lot of big plays. You've got some guys that have played a lot of football with Travis Kuntz. The running back position. There's been numerous explosive runs this year that you've seen from the running backs, and it's a deep position. And up front, like I said, they're a big group up front, and a physical group. And so I think the receivers are here. I think they can run around, and it's going to boil down to being able to be consistent at quarterback, and that's it's a big part of what my job's going to be.
Go back to Don.
Sonny, how much time, as this was coming together, how much time did you spend visiting with Matt in terms of getting comfortable with one another, that that he wanted you and that you wanted to be back here, and B, how much time did y'all spend talking X's and O's about philosophy and what he wants to do and how you can mesh with that?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time. Like Coach Wells said, we knew each other in crossing. I know Luke very well from recruiting. We spent a lot of time recruiting together, and we spent a lot of time together talking. And then the first thing that we talked about was about a 2-hour conversation about our families and about, how's Tamara, the boys, and getting to know them, and really getting to know us, from that standpoint. And then we went into the X's and O's, the philosophies and schemes, and the thing that Coach Wells, has said is that hey, it's your canvas. I want you to come back and it's your canvas, and I want you to go to work with it, with the pieces that we have in place, with the coaches that we have. And so those are the types of conversations that we had. They were lengthy, and there were many of them, and really I think we saw eye to eye on most everything. So they were very good conversations, and that was a big piece in terms of deciding on what you wanted to do, and doing it at a place like your alma mater at Texas Tech.
Go back to Eric Kelly.
Coach, you mentioned some of the things that you want to get accomplished. What's for you the importance of the next week and what you do in the first 7 to 10 days?
Yeah, I want to FaceTime every offensive player and then every defensive player. I think that's the first thing I want to do, is just to one-on-one and just look at them and say hello to them and tell them I'm excited to start working with them. I've watched a lot of the games already, and I'll do that again, evaluating the games in depth, and watching by position, and start watching cut-ups of the players by position and their targets, and the O linemen, and just so I think just getting an evaluation of the roster. And then, the biggest thing is planning out January and February of how we want to, install the offense, teach the offense to the coaches, teach it to the players. And then ultimately, by the time spring ball rolls around, you want them to be able to react and not think about, what formation is this? What signal is this? So those are the most important things, is to getting those guys, try to talk to them on the phone, and then also, evaluating the roster, from what they are, because the film is what they are.
Go back to David Collier.
Sonny, you mentioned it earlier with Barron, but I mean, I'm assuming you probably recruited a handful of these guys on the offensive side of the ball. Did that help in the transition, kind of knowing what you were getting into?
Yeah, I did. I'm very familiar with a lot of the talents on the skill guys, the offensive line, and the quarterbacks as well, and running backs and tight ends. We tried to sign Kuntz, and I could go through the whole list, and then you end up leaving somebody. But I know they have talent. Loic from Midland Lee is a big talent. They decided to stay home. JJ Sparkman's a young guy who has a lot of ability. Jalen Polk, Trey Cleveland. And I know that they had a speedster from Perryton, Rigdon, Dalton Rigdon, from Perryton, Sharadrick at running back, Taj, the young freshman. You got the Alabama speed that Coach Wells refers to, and then you also got Xavier White from here in Monterey, which plays about every position I've seen on film. And then up front, with the offensive line, I think they've got a lot of experience. I know right now Jack Anderson is the only guy that hasn't came back. We're still working on a few other ones, but a lot of experience there. So you're familiar with the roster. Hopefully they're familiar with me a little bit, and then we go to work getting to know each other a lot better once we see them in person.
Go to Shehan.
Sonny, you mentioned a little bit that one of the things that Matt Wells told you was you were going to kind of have your own canvas to be able to sort of paint what you wanted. What kind of draw was it to be able to kind of have control of sort of everything on the offense?
Well, I mean, I think that is it's a little piece of the puzzle. I mean, that's exciting to be able to do things and to leave your mark on a place and to try to improve a place. And then there was some really good play offensively at times this year for all of us. And I think that just to be able to come here and to implement some of the things that I feel like that can be successful here is it was a definitely decision making factor.
Go to Sam Con.
Sonny, I'm curious, what is your general philosophy on tempo and how fast do you want to go?
I think you always have to evaluate, does tempo give you an advantage? Why do you go fast? And that's the biggest thing each week. Does tempo give this team a problem? I think that it's a momentum deal. You can play. Why do you go fast? You may equal the playing field. You may go fast because you need to create momentum because things may be dragging. There may be a lull, and so I think tempo each week is evaluated on the opponent. There are certain things every week that we will go fast on and we'll do, and this is these are things that you hang your hat on, and then there's other things that are wrinkles that are more of your change ups that you go to in terms of things that can attack a defense from a tempo perspective.
Go back to Ben Golan.
Coach, just recruiting wise moving forward, I know you can't name any of these guys because they're 2022s, but you offered several highly rated, guys at TCU, but just how hard is it to evaluate this class whenever you haven't been able to see them in 9 months?
It is. It's great. It's hard. It's really hard at quarterback because I mean, before you, the general rule of thumb is before you offer a quarterback, unless it's somebody that anybody can pick off a film, is you want to see them throw in person. You want to see them throw. You want to be. I think one of the things you watch in person too, and at games, is seeing how do their teammates react to them. What kind of body language do they have? Again, what type of competitive character they have, and you can't see that on huddle, and you can't get to spend a ton of time picking guys' brains on X's and O's and having them teach you what they know. And so it's been really hard. FaceTime has allowed you to do some of the things that you would normally do in person on an official visit or unofficial. But I will say there's a lot of really talented quarterbacks in the 22 class in the state of Texas, just based off of their huddle film and what they've done.
We've got time for about 3 or 4 more. We'll start with Don Williams.
Sonny, last year Texas Tech played 4 running backs. This past season played 4 running backs, and it seems like quite a bit in years past. You guys at TCU would play multiple running backs. And I was curious if that was a philosophy thing, or was it just a thing where y'all had a lot of seasons you had 2 or 3 or 4 guys who were relatively close in ability, and or is that kind of how it played out?
Yeah, we've had that's been the case the last few years. You had a lot of guys that were very similar in ability. Also, you never the things injuries. How fresh are guys, and I think in terms of a running back is you want to play the guy that's hot, and you give a guy a chance to get in the flow of the game. But there's also different things you can do from a formation standpoint and personnel standpoint to get other guys involved. That you have a guy that's your inside zone guy, outside zone, and there may be a guy you want to get touches to out on the perimeter. And so I think it's a long season. Running back is a position where those guys do take a lot of hits and take a lot of wear and tear. And so you like to keep them fresh. And so I think that's part of the philosophy behind it.
Go back to David Collier.
Sonny, is there a particular phone call you got from anybody that once the news kind of broke last night that meant something to you, and maybe off of that a little bit, what, just so I can slip in a second question to make Matt Dowdy mad. Working with Joel Filani as a coach after playing with him.
Yeah, there's a lot of phone calls that I wasn't able to get to because my phone was blowing up. A lot of text messages that I haven't been able to get to. A lot of excited former Red Raiders, a lot of excited former teammates and high school coaches across this state. I think the call and the text from to be honest, the call and the text from Cliff meant a great deal, and he's excited. Red Raider alumni are excited, and it's our job to continue to build off of that excitement and that momentum that we have right now. And so that's what we look to do. And so I'm excited to do that, and look forward to moving forward together with Coach Wells and the staff doing it.
Go to Shayhan.
David, you asked me about my man Phenom Joe Filani. So no, I'm excited to working with Joel. He was at North Texas, and we were close in proximity, and so we saw each other a lot. We recruited a lot of the same schools in the Metroplex, and so I saw him a ton. I've had a lot of phone conversations with him, even before this came up, and so I'm looking forward to him working with him, getting his ideas. He's a young coach that I think has a bright mind and is ambitious, and so I know just you base a lot of what you value and judge a coach on is all right, how do his players play, and you watch them on film and the receivers play really hard, and the thing that sticks out to me besides their ability to stretch the field and make plays is they block their tails off, and I think that is the number one thing is they play really hard, and that's coaching.
Go back to Shayhan and then Don to finish up.
Coach, I'm curious, since you left here in 2013, where do you think you've evolved the most schematically?
I think, in the run game, I've learned a ton in the run game at my time at TCU. I've also learned a ton, from Coach Meacham. He loves to play an empty, and I've learned a ton offensively from that and being in the empty formations and 10 personnel. And so I think that's where, the growth has come from is there and being more diverse in the run game. You watch people who play, and a lot of people run very, very similar concepts, very similar schemes. It's the guys that can get them to do it the best together that they end up winning. So, but it's been a great education and not just offensive football, but in running a program that I've had in the last 7 years.
All right, we'll finish with Don.
Sonny, you've now gone from Tech to TCU and back to Tech. I can't imagine that your conversation with Coach Patterson last night was a light conversation. How uncomfortable is it to go from one staff to another within the conference in particular?
Well, I'll say it's very uncomfortable based off the relationships you have with players and with coaches. That is true, Don. That is true. It's very hard. It's very difficult. It gets better, I guess, as the years go on. It doesn't ever become that easy, and it does. It's a challenge because you care about people and you've worked with people. Coaches. We're in the rooms together for 18 hours a day. I mean, we're around each other all the time. We know each other very well, and so it took something like a job coming back here to Texas Tech to make me leave TCU. And in the first, the opportunity that Coach Patterson afforded me to leave here the first time, it was a great opportunity. And the conversation I went with Coach Patterson was great. And he was very excited for me. He said, "I wish you all the luck. Best of luck to you. You have a great family. Matt Wells is a great coach. I really like him. And I hate to lose you, but it was a very positive conversation. And I'm very grateful, for the time that I spent under him and learning under him. But it was coaching and being around players. Man, we're around guys so much, and that's the hardest thing is if you truly, and Coach Wells and I know his staff do, if they truly care about players, and people, that's what makes things hard.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. Now in today's press conference. Thank you.